talk about Steph Curry, out for the next few games for the Warriors, dealing with that groin strain. As I mentioned earlier in the show, still on the road trip, even though he is guaranteed not to play. According to Steve Kerr, what he provides off the court equally valuable to his on-court performance, which is saying something. Kerr said yesterday, quote, "He's got the respect of everybody in the organization, on the team. He brings us together. Steph is the short Tim Duncan." Having played with Tim Duncan and having been through all kinds of stuff in San Antonio, when you have a guy like Tim, a guy like Steph Curry, it makes your whole world easier. I love that video of them on the bench. I felt like it was really important. Again, if that had been, look at Steve and Tim. Not as laughing as much there. That's amazing, Steve. But yeah, I mean, Paul, a guy like that can change everything, right?
I mean, I don't really get it. Like, how do you say Tim Duncan? Because to me, Tim Duncan came off as like a quiet, to himself, personal. Like, Steph is more fun.
With him.
I know I didn't play with him, but you know, he just, when I look at Steph on the sideline, now I see Tim Duncan on the sideline. You know, he's poker face Tim Duncan. And Steph, you know, he smiles, he shows emotion. But I think in the way he's saying is he's sort of like the mediator between everything off the court. You know, that guy.
Sitting
he's
in
a
the
leader.
Middle there. Look
Everybody respects Steph. And when he speaks, it speaks volumes. And he's not on one side or the other. And he's like a median that everybody respects in that way, and I can see that.
Yeah, you know, Steven Jackson talks about all the time about how Tim Duncan, he didn't have to go around beating his chest. People just knew. If Tim said it this way, then everybody else going to do it. I was on the radio with Antonio Daniels the other day, same thing. He made the same comparison that Tim was the standard bearer for the locker room. So if Tim went that way, we all knew he's our leader. He's the best player here. We're all going to fall in line. With Steph, I see what you're saying, Paul. It is a different type of leadership because Steph is, when I think about when the Warriors are at their best, it's when they're having fun, right?
Joy, right? That's what I'm saying. They're the first ones to synthesize joy.
There you
basketball analytic.
The biggest example is the Washington Wizards game, where he's throwing the high up, like layups up into the sky, and he's shooting threes and running around and doing the airplane. That's the Warriors, and that joy comes from him, and it is infectious. Everyone wants to feel like that, and so that's why he's so important.
I'd just like to point out that for 2 straight games now, Boogie Cousins has been the peacemaker. Just think about that. Coming up, Timberwolves owner, I agree. I have been saying Team Boogie on the show for 3 years. Timberwolves owner Glen Taylor says they wasted time trying to convince Jimmy Butler to stay.
You think?
You're going to want to hear what these guys have to say about that. But first, here's our distant replay from this date.